morning, I'm Jim Finch, and you're witnessing the latest episode of the Auditing Insanity Newscast. Tonight we have fun stories on Regan Benson, Floyd Wallace, Chili DeCastro, and special looks at the GoFundMe market and our new This Day in History segment. There's a bug going around the house tonight, so another short intro and outro as we dive into the news, and I'm going to be helping some old people. Oh boy. Help me, please help me. As we dive into GoFundMe, DeCastro's return doesn't move market. Jose Chili DeCastro's triumphant return to live streaming after 2 days off saw his Tuesday night live stream peak at 600 live viewers, 376 comments, 1,300 likes, and the usual mysterious 15,309 views in the hour since it aired, and not a dime in GoFundMe donations. Complaining about low-grade dog food in the dungeon, causing his hair to thin, and not perhaps 4 months away from his hair restoration products, he claimed that he was a bit off since returning to life outside of the jail and starting to make himself more electable. He proclaimed his channel to be the only honest channel on YouTube and praised himself for calling the police out as the bad guys. DeCastro reaffirmed his hatred for police and his belief that police officers only make things worse. Bizarrely, he admitted to making changes to his channel in order to make himself electable, stating that the new plan for the minute was going to tone down his persona and pivot to the center with less inflammatory tactics. Then he immediately ignored the toning down and praised himself for not holding back in comparison to the other channels he audited during his time away from work. Otherwise, DeCastro seemed to have listened to our criticisms a bit. His normal 3-hour meandering mess of an infomercial was replaced with a targeted show with the overall subject of an Illinois police officer facing trial for the death of Sonia Massey. He kept the show under an hour and a half, repledged his threat to use the media to destroy Justice of the Peace Ann Zimmerman, but then pledged a new beginning where he gave up old grudges and moved forward. Again. And he drew not a dime on GoFundMe for his grand return of Beggar Vance. GoFundMe-wise, the day was dominated by a single big donation from a very good friend to this channel. It was a figure that will offset a lot of the costs we had over the weekend with licensing rights, and will make life a bit easier when dealing with my father from September to January and football season. It was directly given to improve the channel and life beyond the channel, as treating a parent who has dementia and needs a certain stability in his life every Sunday, or there'll be hell to pay, is not much of a worry. Still not happy about being reamed by YouTube and the NFL Sunday ticket package. If we can get it away with Dad being engrossed in football, it's much less of a burden on my mom and me. Sorry for getting human there for a minute, it'll pass. And yes, on days when the mighty Seattle Seahawks play at 4 p.m. Eastern, we might be getting pants hosting the live Sunday shows instead of me. Just saying. I let Chili ruin 2022. I let a con man ruin 2023. I'm going to enjoy the 2024 football season, even if the joke will be, and you let the Seahawks ruin 2024. Getting back to DeCastro, this is the sort of donation he should be getting. Not to harp again, but he has 597,000 subscribers. You can say they're fake. I'm not willing to get sued over agreeing with you, but somewhere in there may be a few live actual human beings who care about him. Right now he's falling apart. Receding hairline, cracked teeth, weird white and peeling lips, chins that he's not trying to hide anymore, along with a body bloat that no longer can be hidden under a hoodie as it's too freaking hot in Las Vegas. This is not the Jose Chili DeCastro that his viewers know, and for that, it should get him at least a pity donation to his many GoFundMe campaigns. But he isn't. We'll probably devote thousands of words in the near future to why it's not working, but for today we'll just note that the big return was anything but, and the market, which lives or dies with DeCastro, will only be briefly propped up by our donation today and continue the free fall tomorrow. Something has to change. Others have to start caring about promoting their campaigns again, or the means of supporting their hobby/lifestyle/cause to die upon that hill is going to fade away. Since we're not monetized, if you'd like to join our daily hate watcher in making us dance like we don't think anyone is watching, we do have a GoFundMe of our own. All proceeds go to keeping the lights on, eating, and writing new stories to feature here and on ReallyCoolSite.org. Wallace endorses pay-to-play dating. Again. Passport bro enthusiast and sex tourist Floyd Wallace put out a new video this week, fully endorsing the concept of a pay-to-play lifestyle as an alternative to traditional dating. Paying to play, or essentially giving a date money in exchange for sex acts, has been a staple of Wallace's philosophy on dating for some time now. Despite the implication of turning his date into a prostitute, Wallace seemed happy as long as sex was involved in the transaction. Previously, Wallace had routinely expressed his preference for paying for and engaging in sexual activities at the start of a date, and if the date went sour, he could separate from his companion and still have had his sexual needs satisfied for the night. In Wallace's new video, a snippet taken from a larger discussion with the host of the Go Abroad Now YouTube channel, he pushed the idea that it is better to pay for sex up front with a woman in a third world country than to pay an enormous amount on an actual date with an American woman with no guarantee of sex. Wallace related to a story of how happy a woman was in a third world country as he took her to McDonald's and implied that he paid for sexual acts which cost him a total of $30 for the entire date, including the meal. He marveled at the woman's happiness in being taken to McDonald's in exchange for the transaction and seemed to imply that he bettered the woman's life. Both men stated they knew their roles in America and engaging in regular sex through a normal dating life was too expensive for the average man, especially when expensive dates did not guarantee sex. Their premise continued with the viewpoint that women in third world countries are more agreeable to sex with Americans, are essentially disposable, and paying to play guarantees sexual satisfaction with an impoverished person who may be willing to engage in sexual activities to better their lives. Wallace has previously admitted to paying to play in his visit to Nebraska earlier in the year, admitting the encounter was his only sexual conquest in the United States since returning from his last sex tourism vacation. The YouTuber is expected to leave for Colombia for another sex tourism vacation later this month. Benson unhinged rant at Englewood City Council. Regan Benson spent Monday night in her favorite place, in front of a podium at the Englewood City Council, screaming at the council members. For whatever reason, Benson missed advance sign-ups for the longer 5-minute speaking sessions and was granted 3 minutes in order to spew venomous tirades against the city council, writing on the sign-up sheet that she was going to address the police in her speech. Benson then targeted council member Joe Anderson in her remarks, calling him a moron and accusing him of laughing and giggling as she spoke, eventually screaming at him that he should immediately resign from the city council as he was a disgrace. The YouTuber doesn't live in Englewood, but claims she has power over the city as she lives in Denver, and Denver is contracted to supply emergency services to the smaller city. Benson's obsession with Englewood in particular came years ago when she was denied the use of employee bathrooms on the 3rd floor of the Civic Center during an audit of the building. Her obsession with using the 3rd floor bathrooms has become an often comical diversion from her more serious topics, as she has been determined to change the policy of keeping the public out of those bathrooms and won't stop until she gets the change made. Her actual speech in front of the council concerned Denver picking up an investigation into an incident that happened in October of last year, where Benson claims police assaulted a man for attempting to enter a homeless woman's vehicle in order to help get the vehicle started. They then issued an arrest warrant for the man after he fled on foot from the officers, in Benson's version, later illegally arresting the man in a private residence. Benson claims the man has been harassed ever since the incident, with pending legal charges based on the alleged assault by the Englewood Police Department. She included copies of the paperwork of the investigation by Denver police for everyone on the council and in positions of power at the meeting, except for Anderson, who she claimed was a moron who should have apologized to her for appearing on the Frauditor Troll show to discuss Benson's activities earlier in the year. Benson has pledged to continue her reign of terror against Englewood Englewood until such a time as all the members of the corrupt police force resign, and apparently until the members of the city council she disagrees with resign as well. Her regular Monday night attacks on members of the city council, often filled with falsehood or Benson versions of events, recounting every slight, every bother, and everything on her mind, have come to the point of parody to most viewers of her YouTube channel. Final ruling released in DeCastro appeal. Monday's release of the final order of Judge Michelle Levitt gave Jose Chile DeCastro a small victory on Monday, reaffirming his win in some people's eyes, while reestablishing the belief that the prosecution didn't try in the case and literally handed the victory to DeCastro. Levitt's ruling essentially came down to her belief that DeCastro complied with the order by Officer Brandon Bork to move back, and Bork was at fault for not telling DeCastro how far to move back. Unlike the ruling that Bork had probable cause to arrest DeCastro by the judge in DeCastro's ongoing federal civil rights lawsuit, the fact that DeCastro backed up a few feet after being told he was being detained was enough to sway Levitt. Judge Levitt said in her ruling that the lower court did not consider the recent ruling in Wilson v. First Judicial District Court, with her claims echoing the defense in the case, and literally no other commentator or expert who has reviewed the case, that obstruction is a physical act. The prosecution in the case replied with a weak "nah-ha" to her contentions, but being the judge, she ruled that this was a right-to-film case and that DeCastro was somehow being punished for filming police. Despite the testimony of Officer Bork and the specific statements made by Justice of the Peace Ann Zimmerman reaffirming DeCastro's right to film. Levitt's ruling again comes off as a quick get-this-case-off-my-docket ruling that sided with a passionate defense rather than an indifferent prosecution. It reads as if defense attorney Christopher Oram wrote it for the judge, and if he did, we have no doubt the prosecutor would not have noticed. DeCastro is attempting to ask the court in his federal civil rights lawsuit to consider Levitt's verdict, despite previously ruling in favor of the Las Vegas Metro Police Department that Bork had probable cause to arrest DeCastro, and it remains to be seen how much of an impact this decision will ultimately have on the federal court case. This Day in History, July 24th, 2024. July 24th fell on a Monday in 2023 and saw stories featuring Kate Peter, Turtle Boy, Uncle Artie, and Jose Chile DeCastro dominate the news for the day. Turtle Boy Aiden Curdy was fresh off his rolling rally in front of the homes of witnesses in the Karen Reed murder case that was held 2 days before his live stream. Kearney led supporters to protest outside of the homes of various members of the Albert and McCabe families, calling them murderers and demanding that they change their testimony in the case and admit that they were in on a plot to frame Karen Reed for the murder of John O'Keefe. Kearney was in the news as he watched a Dateline NBC segment that aired on the Today Show on Reed's case. He claimed in the stream that Reed was being framed by members of the McCabe and Albert family. O'Keefe was supposedly murdered by Colin Albert and others, then his body was dumped on Brian Albert's front lawn in a snowstorm. He predicted that Brian Albert would commit suicide and leave a note taking the blame for the murder to take the heat off of Colin Albert. Turtle Boy nemesis Kate Peter also went live that Monday with an impromptu live stream to examine a video Kearney had put out where he called a worker at the Norfolk County Superior Court and displayed knowledge of motions that were not released to the public as of yet. We now know that Kearney was then working with Karen Reed as her unofficial minister of propaganda and had apparently been provided copies of motions by Reed that had yet to be made public. The court worker asked how Kearney got copies of the motions, as one of the motions literally had only been filed with the court 10 minutes previous to the phone call. Kearney had turned the inquiry by the worker into an accusation of a cover-up and that the worker was somehow hiding the truth from the public. Peter questioned why the defense was going all in on accusing others of the murder, while providing little or no evidence to defend Reed, further noting that Kearney's independent actions seemed to fall in line with whatever the defense was promoting that week. Over in the world of Jose Chile DeCastro, Jason Dollahide interrupted DeCastro's regularly scheduled infomercial with a call from the Norman, Oklahoma detention center. Dollahide had been jailed the week before as his various bonds for incidents over the years had been pulled after a blow-up with a woman at a shopping center earlier in the year. When police tried to apprehend Dollahide, he famously ran from them with his daughter in the car, allegedly committing vehicular assault in the process. The half-baked YouTuber had all of his bonds rescinded by the bail bondsman who put up the money to cover Dollahide's original bond, as his new charges involved assaulting police officers. Dollahide now faced a $150,000 bond, which his wife Heather was working on raising. Because his previous bonds were rescinded, no bail bondsman in the state of Oklahoma would work with the Dollahide family without putting up significant collateral to cover the bond. Dollahide remains in the Norman, Oklahoma detention center to this day after being convicted of lesser offenses. He is expected to serve his time in jail first for those convictions before being transferred to the state prison, where he awaits extensive time in prison for his assault on the police officers. Finally, on this day in history, popular YouTuber Uncle Artie announced the opening of his relaxation channel. The channel featured relaxation and meditation videos, a departure from his usual comedic stylings. You can visit all the stories from this day in history at our website at reallycoolsite.org. Razzle Fazzle, why do I have to? I just want to go to bed. Catch us while we last today as things are out of our hands and rolling. We'll have something more coherent in the morning, but for now, wham, zap, pow, and see you then. Good night, everyone.